I took my husband's life in a public parking lot. The more I tried to figure out how to remove myself from the situation, it just got worse and worse. In the end, he strode back to his car and raised his trunk. I feel and I know that he was going for a tire iron that he had threatened me with the week before. So I ran my car into the back of his car. It's a hard thing, even today. And why did I do it? Why? I was pregnant with our second daughter, 8 months pregnant. It was the first time he truly got physical by shoving me into a wall. As the violence and anger escalated, I never doubted for a minute his threats. He told me from the earliest days the only solution was for both of us to die. And I never doubted it. Over time, it wears you down. It wears you down till you don't know what you believe in. I came to prison at 44, but I still feel that I grew up in prison. Because I lost who I was, what I felt about things. But I grew up.
Ladies, with all of you, ladies, sign in on the white sign-up sheet.
Welcome, ladies, everyone. Any new members that we have to Convicted Women Against Abuse tonight. I think what I was reaching out for and what I found was it didn't just happen to me, that it happened to many women in different ways and different aspects. But to know that we weren't alone, I think that was a very important factor.
I was sitting in this group one night and Glenda was telling her story, and it was so similar. Everything about it, and she was the wife and the 3 kids and the dog, and but her story was just like mine, and it made me know that we were all in partnership. We were sisters, and I'm so glad for this group that I found out that it wasn't just me.
Convicted Women Against Abuse has done so much, not only for the prison and for the women, but it has also done so much for the communities out there because so many laws have been passed, because it has gotten so much recognition.
Locked behind bars, these women are making history, not for killing the men they once loved, but for forming a support group to fight for change.
You know something? From inside prison, we're doing something. We've all been treated as though we were cold-blooded killers.
This group, the first of its kind in the U.S. prison system, was created by inmate Brenda Klebine, a woman who discovered a sisterhood of prisoners with the same dark past of domestic violence, seeking a source of hope.
I see today how many new faces are there, and the sadness is that I see many of the same faces. They were all part of that. They're all part of making a difference in educating people and making a difference in the lives of the people that are there, even more importantly. And it's a place where women can heal. You learn from your past. You take those things and you build on those things and you say, yeah, I did this, but this is what I'm gonna do now. You know, I did that wrong, but this is how I'm gonna change that. If you do those things, then you continue to move forward, you know? And you feel better with each step of accomplishment that you make. And you feel like, wow, I did accomplish something. Ooh, wow, I did that. I did that.
I can't do this.
Rosemary, keep going. You've got to share your story. Don't be afraid.
Remember, it gets easier.
Right. Silence. You learn it at a young age. When I was being beaten at home with my father, when I was being molested, everything is silence. You don't tell, you don't talk.
I said if a man ever hit me, I would walk out the door immediately. That isn't exactly what happened. It didn't start out as abuse. He was my knight in shining armor. He was the most excitement that I'd ever had in my life. It was different and new and exciting and all of the things that you dream about. You know, when someone sweeps you off of your feet, that's a big warning sign, girls. Do not. If you're being swept off your feet, it's probably a little danger sign.
I met my husband. He ended up being worse than my father. I was tied up, I was beaten. He used instruments on me. He used guns to sexually molest me with. He used knives. He used anything he thought he could. Then there was the silence. You don't talk. I had no friends. I wasn't allowed to associate with anyone. Who would I tell? Who would I be not silent with?
If I'd have shut up, I'd have got hit a lot less. If I'd have just backed down, it wouldn't have been so bad. It took about 7 years. And 7 years into this group, somebody said, if he didn't hit his friends, and he didn't hit his boss who made him angry, he made conscious decisions while he was angry. That means he made a conscious decision that you weren't worth holding back from.
My whole marriage, I tried to protect my husband. I didn't want people to look at him badly. It was stupid. I didn't want them looking at him badly in his grave. Or maybe somewhere I didn't want them looking at me, since I was the one left behind. Silence is a killer. My name is Rosemary, and I'm a survivor.
Okay, everybody, if you can, take one step in closer. I think you can do it again.
We had to learn and understand that that house ain't worth it, he ain't worth it, those fake tears ain't worth it, it ain't gonna work, and no, I'm not coming back. If I paid attention to those clues years ago, I never would have married him. When he started telling me what to do and what not to do, what makeup I could wear, what makeup I couldn't, what friend I could have, what friend I couldn't, and how they were no good in my life. They really don't care about me. God, I thought he loved me, and what he was doing was isolating me. Okay, if I knew that then, geez, if I only knew then what I know now. Because I went from one incident to the next. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I was beaten around every single wall. I had 3 broken ribs, I had a broken collarbone, and all I could think about was, I failed my son. I failed because I couldn't make it work. I tried and I tried and I tried and I couldn't make it work. I just couldn't.
Today, I know that there were many reasons why I didn't leave. There's no one set answer to that question. After a while, you don't feel capable of raising children on your own, financially, psychologically. You're somewhat, in a sick way, you're dependent on the man that's making your life hell.
In my study of women who are convicted for the death of their abusers, they wanted to find out what brought them to that point. We like to think that it's always someone else who falls prey to victimization. It makes us feel safer to believe that. We always think, I used to think, well, if that ever happened to me, I'd leave. But first of all, I'd never get into that relationship to begin with. I assumed that. That was out of my own ignorance. Once I started investigating the lives and experiences of battered women and convicted battered women, I realized how easily it could be me. One reason I'm so committed to articulating my research is because their experience, the experience that these women have gone through, the highest end of abuse, echoes the experience of those women who don't walk away that night. We have to learn from their experiences and learn from them so that we can help those on the outside.
He was very loving and caring. And when I met him at a revival at my church. So he was in church. We dated for approximately 2 years before we married. I never detected any abuse. I can remember being bit, just fought like I was a man, hit like I was a man. And people say, well, why didn't you just leave? It's not that simple all the time. And with me, knowing that, okay, there was this side of him, but then there was another side of him where he was a sweet, kind, loving, caring person. And that's what I focused on, and praying that, you know, he would come out of the stupor that he was in, because, like I said, he was a minister.
Why doesn't she just leave? That's the question we always ask. Let's think about the question some more. It assumes that leaving stops his violence, when actually leaving escalates the violence. We have a term for it. It's called separation assault. It happens so often that when she tries to leave, he intensifies his violence. In fact, she is at 75% increased risk for being killed after she leaves, and she stays at an increased risk for 2 years. Leaving does not stop the violence.
But if you're in the church, you're taught that, okay, you hold on in there, God's gonna work it out, just have faith, just hold on. But it's not always that easy.
There's verbal abuse, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, mind games. There's a term gaslighting from the old Charles Boyer, Ingrid Bergman film, back in the 40s, I think it was, when he tries to make her go crazy in the film called Gaslight. So we use that term today to describe when an abuser systematically sort of makes her feel crazy. For example, he will say something and then she'll repeat it to him and he'll say, I never said that. That didn't happen. You fell, I didn't push you. And so on and so forth. And unless there's someone else helping to define the situation, it's very difficult for her to start sorting out what is his creation versus what are her own thoughts.
Sometimes you wonder if is this really happening, or am I imagining it? We have a tendency to shrug off, because of love, what's really going on. And because of that, I denied myself of a lot, and I endured a lot.
The physical violence is very terrifying, but at least it leaves a mark and it shows up in an X-ray. So in a way, it's easier for a victim to define that as abuse. It's much more difficult to define psychological, emotional, or verbal abuse as abusive. Actually, once women are away, escape an abuser, they say that the emotional and the psychological abuse is really the worst because they keep replaying those words and those incidents long after the bruises have faded or the injuries have healed.
We don't even know the difference between unhealthy and unhealthy when you see a man who, you know, calls you a bitch, you think he's just having a bad day. You know, when you get into CWAA, you start recognizing that these are the subtle signs that things are going to escalate and get worse, and they're never going to get better. But when you come from an abusive past and you've had an abusive relationship and you don't see any options, I didn't see any options. I saw no way out. I saw the only ways that I could find. One was the police and the other one was my mother. Both of those options were not options. Where was I to go? And early stages of how you would deal with it in policing in the 70s and in the 80s and up until maybe the late 80s, early 90s, was you would go into someone's home when there was a domestic violence call and you would separate the parties, you'd interview them, you would warn them that if we have to come back to this house again, we're going to make an arrest. And we weren't trained in how to identify the primary aggressor. We just kind of said, hey, keep it down, resolve your problem. If we come back, someone's going to jail. And that was the way we dealt with it. I called the police at one point and they told me that it was a domestic dispute and I didn't have any marks on my body and therefore there was nothing they could do. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there wasn't shelters at that. It was in 1988. They had hotlines. I didn't find that out till later, but I found out later they did have hotlines. I don't know what they did, but I don't think they ever had shelters at that point. But the police told me that there was nothing they could do, that he didn't leave any marks on me. So
I think the law has been pretty good in adjusting itself and giving these options of restraining orders, keep-away orders and the like, to let anyone who's tempted to kill another person know that you don't have to use that option. There's other things there for you. At the same time, you know, there are those who, when they beat a woman, will threaten, you call the police, I'll kill you. So there's this imminent fear of being killed also. But even if that's the case, there's always the escape route that's the best route. You just, instead of killing your husband in bed while he's asleep, what you do is you pack your belongings and get out of there and then go on to a safe haven and then reconstitute your life without putting yourself in jail for killing another person.
when I went to the police, I had slept in my car with my kids. In front of a friend's house. I couldn't even sleep inside the house, and it was pouring down rain. And my little son was still in diapers. It just shivered and shaking. I couldn't do it anymore. So I went back, and I kept going back. In little incidents like that, I just kept going back because I had nowhere else to go.
It's not only a big problem for the victims, it's a bigger problem for the family that's being raised in that kind of an environment. If we could eliminate violence in the home, we could probably eliminate 50% of our violence on the streets. We believe that many of these young people who are raised in a violent atmosphere go on to become abusers, drug users, gang members, other violent felons. This is their role model. This is how they see their parents or the adults in their home interact.
I had to always be cautious that they weren't doing something wrong, or that they were asleep when he came home, or he was so crazy. He would make them do jumping jacks over and over and over, just yell at them, throw things at them.
My poor kids.
Domestic violence calls are some of the most dangerous calls we deal with, and they're very time-consuming. But I think most importantly, they're also very damaging to not just the victim, but the entire family. And so it's important that they're handled appropriately.
Emergency. My mommy and Daddy are having a fight.
Is she hitting her?
Hurting mommy.
How's he hurting her?
He made his mommy.
Okay, don't cry. We're going to send the police.
Okay.
They're on their way, but I'm going to keep you on the line.
He just knocked my sister out. He pushed her down on the floor. I wish he would stop doing this. He just slapped mommy.
Okay.
And he made some red marks on mama's neck. Oh my God!
What's the matter?
Something happened! Just please remember me! Mommy!
Hello?
We hear from almost every battered woman or abused child, I'm walking on eggshells. Because they know to watch the abuser's every move. They have been taught and trained to watch for any cue that what they're doing is displeasing. Because if they're doing what's displeasing, they get hurt.
I, like everybody else, wondered, well, if he doesn't like this, maybe I should just stop it. But it was often little things. A dirty fork in the silverware drawer could set him off to rant and rave and terrorize the children or myself for an entire day. At the time, I just didn't know what to do. I stayed within that marriage for 24 years. And I often wonder, what was I thinking? I didn't have the skills. I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't know that any form of abuse was wrong and that I didn't have to take it.
Didn't even have time to get it straight in my mind. Catch up from behind. You see that I was blind, and I wish I was wrong.
In Glenda's case, she was a woman with no history of violence. She was a middle-aged mother. She had not ever been arrested before, and she was, as I recall, about 40 years old. And so her lawyer would have said, well, what caused this? And I think I should have someone talk to her to understand her mental state at the time.
There were times when I begged him, just stop. Just stop. Why can't you stop? There were times when he was suicidal and at his lowest, and I cradled him in my arms. And I told him he was a good man. We'd get through it. One more time, we'll get through it. We'll manage. And so we'd get through one more hurdle. And then there would be another and another.
A number of killings where the woman killed her partner involved the effects of battering, which at that time were called battered woman syndrome. And the effects of battering had to do with her perception. It's not our perception of whether she was in danger. It's what she feels based on what she knows about this person. When they see that danger, when they feel that man is angry at them, they flash on all the other times they've been hurt. They often get so scared, they go into a dissociative state where they're all about survival and protection.
General public in the 80s had no real idea of how many women were abused, the severity of the abuse they suffered, what was involved in their lives. And so they didn't appreciate those situations when they were presented with them as jurors. And so many jurors were not terribly sympathetic.
I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a judge, but I feel that she got abused throughout her life, and now the system is abusing her because her story, what happened to her didn't come out. He abused her for 20 years. She kills him in a 3-minute altercation in a parking lot. In any case, we are judging by what happened and the evidence given to us. She killed him. If they're going to disregard the way he abused her, then they're convicting her on half the information.
How it is right now is how it's always gonna be. It's here, then it's gone. Love doesn't last too long. And I wish I was wrong. Love doesn't last too long.
All jurors saw, because that was all that was presented to them, was a woman who had armed herself and killed an unarmed man. So those facts, if that's all you see, more often than not, you're going to be convicted of first or second degree murder.
There were no laws at that time to make domestic violence, battered woman syndrome, admissible. The judge allowed it, but they made a sham of it. They told the jury, this is not a legal defense. We're only allowing her to tell what took place.
When a beating is a particular way, what he says is said in a particular tone of voice, and over again we hear the look in his eyes. I knew that this was it. I don't think those of us who haven't been there can say she was wrong.
These women, along with lots of other people who've been convicted of first and second degree murder, are in prison because of the process, not because of their cases, not because of the facts of their cases.
At 22, I don't know how well I could have made an argument, how bright I was enough to make the argument, but could there have been something I could have done to prevent her from going to prison for so long? Because I thought she was going to do 7-8 years, the longest, and then she'd be out and living her life. But knowing she's been in there for this 20 years is frustrating. It's sad.
I'm not asking to be exonerated. I'm saying, when is enough enough? I married Sam when I was 18. I'm 62. How long am I supposed to remain in this relationship? It's the only one I've ever had.
We got legally married on July 5th of '82. And about a week and a half, almost 2 weeks after we got married, I was beat up the first time.
Brenda Klubine killed her husband.
People versus Brenda Klubine. When he raised his arm, the only thing I thought of was he was going to hit me. And I thought it wasn't going to happen again. I wouldn't go through it again. And that's when I picked up the bottle and hit him over the head with the bottle.
It is the sentence of this court that for the crime of violation of Section 187 of the Penal Code, murder in the second degree of felony, that the defendant be imprisoned in the state prison for the term prescribed by law, which is 15 years to life in prison.
When my jury convicted me for second-degree murder, I knew then that it was over for me and my son. The judge said, I have to recommend your son to the California Department of Adoptions. He was not quite 3 years old. So we played. He wrote all over the judge's desk, and he was scribbling. He was all over the room, and just as cute as a button. And she said, okay, I can hold on to this for 30 days. I said, if you do, I'll change my mind, and I'll make it about me. I have to make it about him, and I have to let go now. So you need to file this today, please. And she said, okay. It was a horrible hurt pain. Then when they told me that Joey was killed on July the 26th of 1987, I gave up. I stopped eating. I didn't want to go to work. I couldn't be around anybody. I ended up on suicide watch, and I ended up having a nervous breakdown. Because that was so final. I had dreamed in my head from the moment that I let him go that one day I'd have the chance to tell him that I didn't give him up because I didn't love him. That it was because I loved him that I gave him up. That was the hardest decision I ever had to make in my life. And I was robbed of that. That was taken away from me. And it was final. There was nothing, there was no hope left. So in one night, there was a crossroad, and there was a decision I had to make. I was either going to commit suicide that night, and I made a conscious decision, or I was going to make it. I was going to do something. I was going to start a group where we all could understand what was going on. What was the problem? How do we learn why we keep being people's victims? I've had all these people over the years saying, oh, that didn't happen. You weren't abused. And I've been so damaged even since I've been imprisoned by that. And it was that one night that decision just became the conviction of my heart, and still is today. When I hear Linda Crosley's pain and what she went through, when I hear Rosemary Dyer's pain and what she went through, I saw what it's cost, what the damage has done. So I just wrote a simple letter asking the governor, we've been in prison for multiple years, we're abused women, we've suffered, we are offenders, but we're victims, da-da-da, and everybody signed it. There were either 32 or 34 of us, total. And I mailed it. And before I knew it, there was this big, wow. You know, the governor's office responded back, and they were gonna look into these cases, and so all of a sudden, the California Women's Caucus wrote me back, and the chairperson at the time was Jackie Spear, Assemblywoman Spear, and she said, hey, I want to come down, I want to hold a public hearing, da-da-da-da, and I was like, wow.
I'm going to ask at this time the women that are here to testify to please come forward.
My name is Glenda Crosley. I'm 56 years old, and I'm doing life in prison for killing my husband in 1986. The law to allow evidence of battered women syndrome did not happen until 1992, 4 years after I came to prison.
Well, in 92, the legislature passed the Evidence Code, Section 1107, which allowed this expert testimony as admissible evidence. CWAA got people to be interested in that issue.
We need all our sisters home. Our families are missing their mothers, their daughters.
Their efforts led to legislation in 2002, which gave them the right to go back to court on habeas petition. About 10 years after they started the effort, it was an incredibly significant achievement, and particularly given the fact that it was started by a group of women who were incarcerated serving life sentences.
It's amazing to see all these women, all from different backgrounds. You know, it just could be anybody. And unfortunately, one of those people was my mom. It was so scary and nerve-wracking for me to be able to make that effort to try and reach out to her.
I got a letter. Boy, did I get a letter. I got a letter from my son. And I look at this collage of photos and I go, oh my God. And all I could really focus on is that you're the miracle I prayed for so many years. You are my miracle. I was so frightened that he'd be ashamed of me. I know he'd written that he said that he was proud of me and was happy that I'd done what I'd done with CWAA, but that didn't seem real for me. I needed to hear it from him face to face. So I'm looking for, I go, is there a phone number? Is there a phone number? What is there?
I have a collect call from
Mom?
an inmate at California Institution for Women in Chino, California, to accept.
I had like 30 people were standing around me in the foyer looking at me while I'm on the phone for my first phone call. And they're all crying because I'm boohooing like a crazy person. I'm going, oh my God. I talked to my son.
It's about time.
Yeah, it definitely is.
They can't take this from us, can they?
No. Not anymore. I don't think they could take anything else from us.
You know, I just want to make everything right. I have to remember that I can't make up for what was gone. We can only go forward.
He's a man. He's not Joey. I can't stand that. He's not Joey. He's Joe. He's almost 27 years old. He's a man, and he's a father.
You have given me just such pride in where I came from and who I am, and just, I've never had so much self-esteem and self-confidence, and it's just amazing.
I've been so high on cloud 9 that I could hardly breathe. And everybody knows about him. Whether they know me or not, I don't care. The whole prison knows about my son now. It doesn't matter if they know me. I've shown everybody pictures. Look, look, look. You know, I don't care. And the most amazing thing about it is the day after that, I got a call from my attorney that an evidentiary hearing was granted and that they're talking about instead offering me a plea.
And I got the call about my court hearing. There's a reason that it all happened at this time and all together. Isn't that cool?
Yes, it's very cool.
How do you say it? Sweet.
Yeah, that is sweet.
God, I love you so much.
I love you so much too, Mom.
And I miss so much, and I just can't wait. I absolutely can't wait.
Pro bono attorneys gave her the opportunity to go back to court on a habeas petition and try to get her conviction set aside and a new trial. Between 1992 and 2002, she didn't have that option. She just had a conviction that she could look at the new evidence code and say to herself, well, had I gone to trial after 2002, I might have had a more fair trial. It wasn't until 2002 when she was given the option. But that's still a long process. The fact that the judge is willing to hear the case is certainly a good sign.
Most women don't even have documentation. They don't have eyewitnesses. They don't have all these things. I have all this evidence. From that moment on, I knew that this is the beginning of the end. And then it's the beginning all over again. It's my new life. But I can't leave here and leave my heart's conviction. I can't. It doesn't stop here. Because I believe with every fiber of my being that I can still make a difference. I see some amazing women in this grove. And I remember when just about each and every one of you got here, okay? And you've grown so immensely. And you're not that victim anymore.
There's people sitting in this room I know never for a million years thought that this could be them, that they could be sitting here. Glenda, I know you never thought that you would be in prison. You were married for 25 years to this man.
But it's important to recognize that if you're in a situation and it isn't good, you gotta get out. You've gotta get out. If I had gotten out, I wouldn't be here. If I could just say one thing to a young woman who's beginning in her life, if you feel trapped, you are.
And that's what this group has always been about. It's never been about staying in that victim role. It's about moving forward and making a difference somewhere, because nobody understands until they're educated, correct?
Right.
Okay, that's where it starts. It starts with education.
They want to help other people. They look beyond themselves. They don't want others to go through what they've been through. They want men to know how to treat women. They want their sons to know how to treat girlfriends. They want their daughters to know that they're worthy of all respect, and that women are able to make decisions about their own lives, and that a woman is a whole person even if she's single. And all these things that they didn't understand before. And that it's okay to make decisions to help yourself, to be healthy, and to be safe.
Stop ignoring it. Everybody needs to stop ignoring it. It's not going to go away. We can't eradicate it, but we can make it better. The thing is it takes energy to make it better. And it takes people caring and having a conviction of their heart and wanting to follow through. Just like CWAA. I followed through.
It would be so easy to crawl into a corner and pull a blanket over yourself. But these women, they seek to educate anybody who will listen. And they try to keep others from following the same path that they were on. We have to learn from their experiences and learn from them so that we can help those on the outside. They are too valuable to keep hidden away. And their voices are too important to be silenced.
Little people in the front.
Here we go. Yesterday when you were young, everything you needed done was done for you. Now you do it on your own, but you find you're all alone. What can you do? You walk on, walk on, walk on, 'cause you can't go back now. You know there will be days when you're so tired that you can't take another step. Night will have no stars, and you'll think you've gone as far as you will ever get. And you and me walk on, walk on, walk on, 'cause you can't go back now. And yeah, go where you wanna go. Yeah. Be what you wanna be. If you ever turn around, you'll see me. say why everybody wishes they were somewhere else. But in the end, the only steps that matter are the ones you take all by yourself. And you and me, walk on, walk on, walk on. You can't go back now.
We are on the record in the matter of the People versus Brenda Klubine.
I believe that it's time. Police reports, hospital records, expert testimony, all of these things are being submitted to court in my writ. It was all meant to be right at this point in time. Because I have my son, and my freedom is just a short distance away now.
Pursuant to 1473.5, I'm modifying the judgment in this case. Her credits include 26 years of custody credits. I don't know how you're going to enter that into the computer, and I'm ordering her released forthwith. Good luck to you, ma'am.
If you ever turn around, you'll see me. Walk on, walk on, walk on, 'cause you can't go back now. Walk on, walk on, walk on, you can't go back now. Walk on, walk on, walk on, you can't go back now.